Hello, welcome back. This is Deuteronomy 15. So I say 14. This is Deuteronomy 15. I'm gonna do 15. I might add 16 and 17 on with this one. I'm not sure. But it says Deuteronomy 15 is debts canceled every 7 years. It says at the end of every 7 years you shall grant a release of debt. And this is the form of the release. Every creditor who has lent anything to his neighbors shall release it. He shall not require it, or his neighbors, or his brother, because it is called the Lord's release. Of a foreigner you may require it, but you shall give up your claim to what is owed by your brother, except when there are many. I gotta change hands, hold on. Except when there are many but no poor among you. For the Lord will greatly bless you in the land which the Lord your God is giving you to possess as an inheritance. Only if you carefully obey the voice of the Lord your God, to observe with care all these commandments which I command you today. For the Lord your God will bless you, just as he promised you. He shall lend to many nations, but you shall not borrow. You shall reign over many nations, but they shall not reign over you. Let me read that again. This is 6. For the Lord your God will bless you, just as he promised you. You shall lend to many nations, but you shall not borrow. You shall reign over many nations, but they shall not reign over you. And then this is the generosity to the poor. This is 7 through 11. If there is among you a poor man of your brethren within any of the gates of your land, which the Lord your God is giving you, you shall not harden your heart nor shut your hand from the poor brother. But you shall open your heart wide. You shall open your hand wide to him and willingly lead him suffocant for his need wherever he needs. Beware lest there be a wicked thought in your heart, saying, the 7th year, the year of release, is at hand, and your eye be evil against your poor brother, and you give him nothing, and he cries out to the Lord again against you, and it shall become a sin among you. You shall surely give to him, and your heart should not be grieved when you give to him, because for this thing the Lord your God will bless you in all your works and in all which you put in your hand. For the poor will never cease from the land. Therefore I command you, saying, you shall open your hand wide to your brother, to your poor and your needy in your land. And then 12 through 18 is the law concerning bondservants. Oh, I have to readjust. Okay. It says, if your brother, a Hebrew man or a Hebrew woman, is sold to you and serves you 6 years, then in the 7th year you shall let him go free from you. And when you send him away free from you, you shall not let him go away empty-handed. You shall supply him liberally from your flock, from your threshing floor, and from your winepress. From what the Lord your God has blessed you with, you shall give to him. You shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and the Lord your God redeemed you. Therefore I command you these things today. And if it happens that he says to you, I will not go away from you, because he loves you in your house, since he prospers you, then you shall take an awl and trust it through his ear to the door, and he shall be your servant forever. Also to your female servant you shall do likewise. It shall not seem hard to you when you send him away free from you, for he has been worth a double hired servant in serving you 6 years. Then the Lord your God will bless you in all that you do. Now, the law concerning the firstborn animal. Verse 19. All the firstborn males that come from your herd and your flock you shall sanctify to the Lord your God. You shall You shall do no work with the firstborn of your herd, nor shear the firstborn of your flock. You and your household shall eat it before the Lord your God, year by year, in the place which the Lord chooses. But if there is a defect in it, if it is lame or blind or has any serious defects, you shall not sacrifice it to the Lord your God. You may eat it within your gates. The unclean and the clean person alike may eat it, as if it were a gazelle or a deer. Only you shall not eat its blood. You shall pour it on the ground like water. And then this is chapter 16. The Passover reviewed. Observe the month of Abib, and keep the Passover to the Lord your God, for in the month of Abib the Lord your God brought you out of the Egypt by night. Therefore you shall sacrifice the Passover to the Lord your God from the flock and the herd, in the place where the Lord chooses to put his name. You shall eat no leavened bread with it. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread with it, that is, the bread of affliction. For you came out of the land of Egypt in haste, that you may remember the day in which you came out of the land of Egypt all the days of your life. And no leaven shall be seen among you in any of your territory for 7 days, nor shall any of the meat which you sacrificed the first day at twilight remain overnight until morning. You may not sacrifice the Passover with any of your gates which the Lord your God gives you. But at the place where the Lord your God chooses to make his name abide, there you will sacrifice the Passover at twilight, at the going down of the sun, at the time you came out of Egypt. And you shall eat roast and eat it in the place which the Lord your God chooses. And in the morning you shall turn and go to your tents. 6 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day there shall be a sacred assembly to the Lord your God. You shall do no work on it. And then this is Deuteronomy 16 verse 9. It says, the Feast of Weeks reviewed. You shall count 7 weeks for yourself. Begin to count the 7th week from the time you began to put the sickle to the grain. Then you shall keep the Feast of Weeks to the Lord your God with the tribute of the free will offering from your hand, which you shall give as the Lord your God blesses you. You shall rejoice before the Lord your God, and you and your sons and your daughters and your male servants and your female servants, the Levites who is within your gates, the strangers and the fatherless, and the widow who are among you, in the place where the Lord your God chooses to make his name abide. And you shall remember that you were a slave in Egypt, and you shall be careful to observe these statutes. This is the Feast of the Tabernacle reviewed. This is 13. Deuteronomy 16:13. You shall observe the Feast of the Tabernacle 7 days. When you have gathered from your threshing floor and from the winepress, and you shall rejoice in your feast, and you and your sons and your daughters and your male servants and your female servants and the Levites, the strangers and the fatherless and the widows who are within your gates. 7 days you shall keep a sacred feast to the Lord your God, to the place which the Lord your chooses, because the Lord your God will bless you in all the produce and in all the works of your hands, so that you surely rejoice. 3 times a year all your males shall appear before the Lord your God in the place which he chooses, at the feast of the unleavened bread, at the feast of weeks, and at the feast of the tabernacle, and they shall not appear before the Lord empty-handed. Every man shall give as he is abide, accordingly to the blessing of the Lord your God, which he has given you. And then this is Deuteronomy 16:18. Justice must be administered. You shall appoint judges and officers in all your gates, which the Lord your God gives you, according to your tribe, and they shall judge the people with just judgment. You shall not pervert justice. You shall not show partiality, nor take a bribe. For a bribe blinds the eye of the wise and twists the words of the righteous. You shall follow what is altogether just, that you may live and inherit the land which the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not plant for yourself any trees as a wooden image near the altar which you build for yourself to the Lord your God. You shall not set up a sacred pillar which the Lord God hates. And then this is chapter 17. 17 only has 20 verses, so it's not that long. And it says 17. Then this is just going on about justice must be administrated. It says, you shall not sacrifice to the Lord your God a bull or a sheep which has any blemishes or defect, for that is an abomination of the Lord your God. If there is found among you within any of your gates which the Lord your God gives you a man or a woman who has been wicked in the sight of the Lord your God and transgression his covenant, who has gone and served other gods and worshipped them, either the sun or the moon or any type of host of heaven, which I have not commanded, as it is told you and your hear of it, then you shall inquire diligently. And if it is indeed true and certain that such an abomination has become committed in Israel, then you shall bring out to your gates that man or woman who has committed that wicked things, and shall stone to death that man or woman with a stone. Whoever is deserving of death shall be put to death on the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. He shall not be put to death on the testimony of 1 witness. The hand of the witness shall be the first against him to put him to death, and afterward the hands of all the people. So you shall put away the evil from among you. If a matter arises which is too hard for you to judge, between degrees of guilt for bloodshed, between one judgment or another, or between one punishment or another matter of controversy within your gates, then you shall arise and go to the place which the Lord God has chosen. And you shall come to the priest of the Levites and to the judge there in those days, and inquire of them. They shall pronounce upon you the sentence of judgment. You shall do accordingly to the sentence which they have pronounced upon you in that place which the Lord chooses, and you shall be careful to do accordingly to all that they order you. According to the sentence of the law in which they instructed you, according to the judgment which they tell you, you shall do. And you shall not turn aside to the right hand or to the left from the sentence which they pronounced upon you. They're mowing the flood wall behind my house. That's what you hear. The city is. Now the man who acts presumptuously and will not heed the priest who stands in the minister there before the Lord your God, or the judge, that man shall die. So you shall put away the evil from Israel. And all the people shall hear and fear and no longer act presumptuously. And this is the principles concerning principles governing kings. This is 14. Deuteronomy 17:14. When you come to the land which the Lord your God is giving you, and possess it and dwell in it, and say, I will set a king over me like all the nations that are around me, you shall surely set a king over you, whom the Lord your God chooses. One from among your brethren you shall set a king over you. You may not set a foreigner over you who is not your brother. But he shall not multiply horses for himself, nor cause the people to return to Egypt to multiply horses. For the Lord has said to you, you shall not return that away, or you shall not turn that way again. Neither shall he multiply wives for himself, lest his heart turn away, nor shall he greatly multiply silver and gold for himself. Also it shall be, when he sits at the throne of his kingdom, he shall write for himself a copy of the law in a book, from the one before the Levites, and it shall be with him, and he shall read it all the days of his life, and he may learn to fear the Lord his God, and be careful to observe all the word of this law and of these statutes, that his heart may not be lifted above his brethren, that he may not turn aside from the commandments to the right hand or to the left hand, and that he may prolong his day in the kingdom, and he and his children in the midst of Israel. That is Deuteronomy 15 through 17. All right, I'll see y'all in the video. Bye, guys.